Call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. We'll go ahead and move on to the second item, which is to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from John, second from Blake. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 3, which is to approve the consent calendar, which is the minutes from our last meeting and the payment of bills.
So moved.
Motion from John, second by Doug. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Move on to the next item, which is to consider the write-off of utility bills in the total of $131.86.
On page 8 in your packet, there's a list of the various accounts that have been deemed to be uncollectible, and recommending writing those off. Total $131.86.
I'll make a motion to write off the utility bills in the total amount of $131.86.
Second.
A motion from John, a second from Blake, to write off utility bills. Any discussion?
Gerald, these people are no longer living at that residence, is that right?
No, and typically what they are is rental
Okay.
properties.
Okay. Yep.
Fortunately, none of them are very big.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're lucky there.
All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Move on to the next item of business, which is to discuss proposed 2024 city budget.
So in your packet, starting on page 9, is a document that I think everybody's familiar with. We've looked at this a number of different times. Did some updates now with labor agreements, 2 out of 3 labor agreements being settled. Tara's been tweaking away on it. Right now, we're at a 3.58% increase. That was down from 4.3. The last time we took a look at that. And we'll continue to, to tweak on it, but just wanted to kind of do some high level stuff. Find out if the council has any questions on it, and then we'll kind of go from there. But, basically, again, looking at that cover page, it's kind of the summary of revenues and expenses, both in the general and special fund, as well as our bond and interest number, which is pretty much dictated by the payments that we have to make for the bonds that have previously been issued. But general fund, as far as expenditures, looking at $2.265 million. Special fund expenditures, $3.99. That's up a little over $1 million due to the community center project that we've got rolled in there. From a levy standpoint, you can see where our levy dollars are being allocated. And as you go through, anywhere where we're talking revenue, you're going to see the color coding, the greens and yellows, kind of identifying local government aid versus tax levy, and then other sources of revenue that come in. One thing I want to do, if I'll get to the right page here, Permanent Improvement Fund, page 26. Again, that's a lot of the stuff that, that we do on an annual basis and budget for. Our overlay street maintenance item we did, as we've talked about before, get some additional state aid from, out of the legislature this year. So we've increased that to try and, kind of better maintain our streets, basically put those dollars all towards the street maintenance. Hopefully get caught up on some of our overlays and tarring projects. Standard stuff with storm sewer, curb gutter, crack sealing, items that are in there pretty much every year. One of the items, and I asked Sergeant Walwick to come tonight, that there was a question raised at one of our meetings related to the less lethal launchers that are listed on here. And I thought it'd be good just to have Ryan come and explain a little bit about what that, what the need is for that and benefit to the department. So, Ryan, if you wanna.
Hello. Hello. So the 40 millimeter launcher, the round that we're looking to use through that, you can use multiple rounds through it, but the one that we're proposing to use is a direct impact round. And what that round does, it causes blunt force trauma. It's much like, a strike with the back of the hand or a strike with a baton. That's the type of injury that it causes. What it doesn't cause is like a penetrating type of injury. We would use that to, effective in an arrest or a high dangerous situation. You might maybe also hear of like shotgun beanbag rounds. It's very similar to that. There's a few problems with the shotgun beanbag rounds, and I'll kind of go over some of the numbers with you quick. The problems with the shotgun beanbag rounds is there's a chance for unintentional penetration. If your standoff distance isn't far enough away, there's a chance that that projectile can actually unintentionally penetrate the person that you're trying to use that round on. And obviously, with a less lethal device, that's, the ultimate, thing that you don't want to see happen. We're not trying to, kill this individual. We're trying to take them into custody as safely as possible with a, device that can help us do that. So anytime that you have a penetrating injury like that, that's worst case scenario. Just for reference, our taser, we have a 25-foot engagement distance with our taser. That's the max distance that our probes can reach. The 40 millimeter direct impact round, we have a 5 feet minimum distance. So the standoff distance would be 5 feet away. So that means I could engage someone 5 feet away or further and not have any danger of being too close to that individual. The maximum effective range for the 40 millimeter is 120 feet. So you look at 120 feet compared to the 25 feet of the taser. Then the 12 gauge beanbag round, the minimum stance rate or stance distance is 20 feet. And that's where we talk about that chance for over penetration. Any closer than that, you can take that chance of over penetration. 20 feet is a lot harder for people to gauge than 5 feet. Most people know that 5 feet is about a person length away. 20 feet, it's kind of a little harder to gauge that. And then the maximum effective range on a beanbag round for a 12 gauge is 75 feet. A couple of years ago, the authorized use of deadly force by peace officers, our statute has changed slightly. You may have heard some about it, may not have. We don't fully know how that's going to affect us as police officers. There's no case law on the situation yet. But there are some things that have been added, like can be articulated with specificity. So to us, we need to make sure, and obviously anytime you're going to use deadly force, the ultimate outcome is obviously we value every single human life. So anytime that we cannot take a life is a good day. So to come to that, things that can help us do that is time, distance, concealment, and cover. The further we are from a situation and can still effectively engage that subject, the less harshly we might have to react. If I'm 5 feet away from an individual with a knife, there's a good chance that I might have to act more aggressively. than if I'm 100 feet away from that individual with a knife. Time, again, that gives us time to, we're all human, it takes us time to come up with a plan, how we're gonna react to that situation. The distance gives us time to think. It also gives us time to try to de-escalate the situation, time to talk to this individual. And then also cover and concealment. If we're limited to a certain distance for our tool to be effective, it might take away from our cover and concealment. If I got a squad car that I can use for cover, and that individual is possibly armed with a weapon, I might not have to act as long as I got some type of cover that I'm hiding behind and feel safe behind. Where if I'm standing in the wide open for that tool to be effective, now it might force my hand into making a use of force decision that I would not have had to make if I had some cover and concealment that I was behind. So the tool basically is it's to bridge the gap. Kind of fits right along with, taser, baton. It's for those situations where you got that individual, you maybe can't get close enough to deploy a taser, but we're not to the point of deadly force, and we're gonna try to de-escalate that situation using this tool. I have seen them used live in person. Being on the part of the Wadena Hubbard SWAT team, we have used them a few different times with great success. And also we have had a deployment of the 40 millimeter here in town as well on one of the individuals that lives in town. And that also, we had a success story with that. Wadena County, Wadena PD, and Todd County started deploying the 40 millimeters in their squad cars. And at that point, we asked Wadena PD to assist us with their 40 millimeter. And we had a successful deployment in town and had a positive outcome to the situation where we took an armed individual into custody with minimal injury to the person. So, that's about all I have. If anyone has any questions on how the 40 millimeter works or anything else, I'll be happy to answer it.
How does that fit into the force continuum? Is it, in the scale of force, use of deadly force or use of force?
Sure. So it would fit in, anytime we got to use an intermediate weapon. So if we're able to use a baton or a taser, you would be able to use the 40 millimeter direct impact. It would fit in that same category. So obviously, you showing up, officer presence, there's verbal commands, there's, open hand techniques, but then anytime we get into the intermediate, non-threatening weapons, the non-deadly weapons, or less lethal weapons, it would fall in that same category. So.
These are kept in your squad car?
They would be kept in the patrol vehicles. Yep.
That would probably be used only it wouldn't be a one-on-one situation, most likely that it would be used, right?
More than likely, you would still want to have some type of deadly force cover if you're deploying one of these items.
What does that mean?
So, if there's an individual that's giving you, that presents a threat and it's possibly a deadly force situation, if there's an individual standing there with, let's say, a firearm, this is a non-deadly force, device, so you wouldn't necessarily just want to be holding that item. You'd probably want to have a cover officer that would have access to deadly force, a rifle or a pistol to cover you while you deployed this weapon.
Gotcha.
So.
I guess and I was wanting to talk to Gerald about it because I guess I'm kind of on the other side of the fence now, I guess, from when I was a police officer. But during my course of time as a police officer, I saw a lot of these gotta have it gadgets come along. Some we got, some we didn't. And the vast majority ended up in the same spot, in the dumpster eventually. And I look at the cost, and that's where I have a little issue with it. And that and the fact that it sounds like there's a lot of them around. A lot of people got them. It's not something that you're probably most likely gonna be, not that you couldn't be alone, and not that I don't want the officers to be safe. You know that, but.
The problem is when you need them normally, right away. It's because that person's presenting you with a threat and you're trying to eliminate that threat as soon as possible. And, if you have two officers already on scene and you're waiting a half an hour for that particular device to arrive, as well as I do that half an hour can seem like an eternity.
Right.
So.
How many launchers how many launchers is this? are we getting for 4,000? I can't.
I would have to direct that to Missy. I don't recall.
Okay.
And that includes the training and equipment.
Okay.
How many? I didn't see. Two.
Just from what I've seen with them, they are an effective tool. You're seeing more and more agencies switch to them, especially with the unknown with the deadly force statute that recently changed. We're trying to, de-escalate as much as possible, use that time, distance, concealment, and cover as much as possible to try to not to force anyone into something where we do end up having to use deadly force. Because like I said, obviously, every life is valuable. And the further sometimes we can stay away from that subject and not have to approach them and not have to get in that, danger close area. If someone's standing there with a knife, and like I said, if I'm 5 feet away, I'm in a lot more danger than if I'm 100 feet away. And it's just one more tool to kind of bridge that gap, so.
Would you say that the taser and this are the same, I don't want to say category, but provide the same, I know this one allows you to be further away, but do they basically fall in the same?
On the force continuum,
Yeah, the
they're
force continuum.
pretty much the same. They're totally different,
Ways of
type of,
doing it.
yeah,
That you could be further away and your goal is gonna be accomplished because you're further away. But
Sure.
They're on the same continuum.
yeah. If you're justified to be able to, use the taser on an individual, you'd be justified to use this, yeah. Anyone else have anything? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Just kind of hoping for a demo.
You're gonna be the victim, right?
From 150 yards. But thank you, Ryan. I thought it'd be worthwhile just to, to have Ryan come and kind of educate all of us a little bit on the launchers. So other items that we have in here, again, turnout gear for firemen, I think, I can't remember, 13 or 14 sets are either past end of life or going to be. So, we're gonna be looking at the purchase of turnout gear end of this year and into next year. Got a lot of new officers that need equipment, so. We've got, some maintenance type of items here at City Hall and the police station, technology. Every year there's, ongoing need for technology expenditures. But a lot of that kind of expense comes out of the permanent improvement fund, so I wanted to talk a little bit specifically about that. You can look down the list. I don't know if there's any questions specifically related to that, any of those items or not. Ahead of our next meeting, our preliminary budget and levy is not impacted by the light, water, and sewer funds. So I want to kind of go through that a little bit, starting on page 32. Look at our light fund revenues and what we're looking at for 2024. Anticipating approximately $3 million of sales to customers. We've got some late payment penalties in there, franchise fees, street light rentals, but about 3.35 million of expenditures within light. And if we flip over to page 33, capital outlay obviously is a big item within those types of funds. The 30,000 is to wrap up the AMI purchase and installation. At 50,000 over there for Prairie View neighborhood, what we're anticipating. Hopefully be able to replace the 3/4 ton truck if we can get them. Transformers have become I think you've all heard Scott, talk about the lack of availability and the cost. So we're, identifying specifically in the budget some dollars for transformer purchases. We, over the years, have had an underground improvement line item in there. And then item that's not a routine item in there, the 45,000 for the concrete pad for storage. What we want to do is to take that storage area by 12th Street, put a pad up near where the old wastewater plant was, so that all of our public works stuff is in the same area, behind the secured gates, especially our transformers, and wire for that matter. Not giving that away. So then, within water fund, anticipating about $681,000 of sales within the water fund. Lease and rent payment revenue, basically water tower to Verizon, which has been a good deal since we got that in place. On the expense side, you can kind of scan down, take a look at where we're at in there. Big item every year, of course, is chemicals. So always dealing with that. Capital outlay, basically those water nodes, AMI. Scott's talked about the lead service line identification project that we're mandated to do. You notice that there wasn't some state money coming in on the other side for that, but water department truck, water meters. I think as a lot of the nodes are being replaced, we're trying to update the old water meters as well. So we had a transfer, $20,000 transfer out, which I think that was the Turnback project, that some of the water fund dollars are going towards that debt service on that. So, any questions on water fund? Sewer side of it, basically we've got the kind of the standard operating revenue, anticipating in the neighborhood of 850,000 of revenues there. The debt service piece, that's basically your little add-on on the bill for the wastewater treatment plant. And over on the expense side, on the next page, you can see what we're looking at. Anticipating chemical costs to be a little less than what we budgeted in '23. The new plant is kind of dialed in. And capital outlay, some grates for lift stations and dialers. So not a big item on the capital outlay. Transfer out is basically going out and feeding back into that service. So. Any questions on that?
Yeah, hate to make you go back, but all the way back on page 12. On the police department's public safety aid, where did those dollars come from?
That was a one-time allocation from the state.
Okay,
I think we 129,000.
and is that to be only used for police?
Public safety, for public safety.
Just because I'm curious as to why the fire department doesn't see any of the.
We haven't allocated all of that yet at this point. Fire department, of course, with the charitable gambling is very helpful to the fire department budget and equipment acquisition. But there is, here, do you know what page do we have a breakdown on the public safety aid like we do ARPA? No. No, okay. So that, yeah, safety aid, and then on the expense side, on page 17, you'll see that transfer out of 95.2, which is basically the unallocated public safety aid. So on page 18, fire department, as long as we're talking fire department, the capital replacement funding, which is in capital outlay, that's from the standby fees from the townships, that 100,000 that comes in. And over the last several years, trying to allocate and build those reserve funds so that when that equipment does need to be replaced, there's dollars there, so we're not borrowing money. But 10,000 for the SCBA's, fire equipment, largely trucks, radios, turnout gear, pagers, make up that 100,000.
I guess the only reason why I kind of question is because I remember seeing in one of our prior budget meetings in 2027, the fire department's due to replace one of their pumpers. And I think the budget that was in there at the time was for $750,000. And the only reason I question is because it'd be very difficult to buy a new fire pumper for $750,000 nowadays. And so I understand that the fire department has charitable gambling, but it can't rely on just gambling to pay for all of our equipment.
No, I wasn't implying that.
Right, no, I understand, but. And that's a one-time, was that like an application that was submitted for that?
I think it was a population-based,
It
here
was a
it is.
per capita thing that has criteria on what is to be spent for it. So a lot of it is like hiring and retention,
Yeah, I kind of want to know.
that kind of stuff, just because of the crisis right now.
Yeah, and the way everything else is going, you'd almost have to order the pumper now to get it in 2027.
Still haven't seen an equipment truck.
I hear it's in St. Cloud though.
Made it this far.
All right,
Other questions?
Yeah, the brine system.
Yes.
I see $10,000 for a brine system. I can't imagine we can buy anything that resembles a brine system for $10,000, and I really question whether or not we even need one.
So page 27, within the street budget. And that actually will be modified before our next meeting, because the guys have a different process that's a lot less expensive than that than they want to try. So that will go from 10 down to about 3. So we won't have a brine system.
Well, I guess, and I'm not a plow driver, or don't even own one. But I drove these streets for 33 years in a two-wheel drive squad car. And when it snowed, the plows came out and plowed the snow. The last couple of years, I've been watching them driving around on 2 inches of snow, dumping sand out and not putting a plow down. And consequently, what that's gonna do is pack the snow on the streets and turn them into a sloppy mess in the spring and all the problems that we have. And for the most part, I think, I guess maybe nobody here remembers it but I think we kind of took pride in the job that we did snow plowing in our town. And we never had these issues, and all of a sudden it's an issue. And salt sand is, well, I don't know if anything works beyond 0 anyway, as far as temperature is concerned. But salt sand has sufficiently done the job, and when we plow the roads off, we never had any problem with the roads being clear or decent, better than almost any other town around here. And I just don't think, needs and wants, I guess it comes down to that. And when you want something, that's nice, but you don't always get it. I've had 4 people stop past my place in the last month, 3 weeks, complaining about their taxes. And yes, I know it's valuation and all this other stuff, but we are a town of 3,000. I think we could have left that sign up on the end of town for the last 60, 70 years, and it wouldn't have changed much. Goes up, goes down a little, but our population really doesn't fluctuate a whole lot. And I look back in time and the equipment that we've got today for a lot of things is way better than the stuff that they used back years ago. And they did a nice job with it. So I don't know, some of this stuff is, I look at a 3%, 3.5% increase in the levy. And yeah, we've had 0 a couple times or whatever. And I don't probably really know how it all works when it comes to when they raise the valuation on the property, but I'm assuming that we also get more money in the city because of that. That changes, even though our tax rate is low. If we raised our tax rate to 75%, 80%, it's gonna generate more revenue for the city, right? Is that how it goes?
Well, we don't, the city doesn't raise its tax rate. What we do is we set a dollar amount that we levy.
Right.
So, the first page of the budget there, that total levy dollar amount. What we're seeing, and when Chris Odden came and talked to the council a little bit about what his process is down at the county from an assessment standpoint, what we're seeing in '24 is basically commercial industrial staying flat from a valuation standpoint. And everybody looks at their estimated tax statement that came out in the mail over the last 2-3 weeks, whatever, and your house went up 25%. Commercial industrial stayed flat. The taxable market value and the net tax capacity of residential properties went up here. So basically what we're gonna see, even if the city were to levy the exact same dollar amount as last year, you're gonna see residential properties paying a higher proportion of that pie than commercial industrial. So, if you've got a commercial building, you're more than likely your tax statement is showing that you're gonna pay less in 2024 than you did in 2023, even based off the preliminary levy stuff that was all set back in September. I know I looked at, we got for the industrial building, which is city of Staples, Wadena County. I think the value of that building went up by $2,000, but the property taxes went down pretty substantially. Somebody is picking up what that, industrial zone property is not paying, not gonna be paying for next year, and it's the residences.
Well, I guess, I look at my tax statement and I can afford to pay my taxes. It's not a problem. Well, up to this point, anyway. It probably will be a problem eventually, just like some of the other people in town here that aren't fortunate enough to have a pension or that type of thing. They're living on Social Security and they're trying to pay property taxes and they keep going up and up and up and up. And then we can reduce our levy by not spending as much, right? By being responsible and not spending as much, right? And taking out the things that we absolutely do not need out of the budget, we can reduce that, right? Is that how that works?
But by lowering expenditures, yeah.
Right. So, I think we already got, 38% rental property. I think we're gonna start seeing people that aren't gonna be able to pay their taxes, and these properties are gonna become delinquent in taxes and forfeited, and people be put out of their homes because of that. Because there are a lot of people in Staples that own homes that are living day to day, if you can believe that. Sometimes maybe it's hard to see that's definitely the case here. And I think it's the responsibility of our city, our county, all the people that are levying taxes to buy things that may or may not be totally necessary. And we're gonna chase people out of their houses. And I don't know. It bothers me a bit. It does, because I saw a lot of those people over the years, and I see them now. And it's our responsibility as elected officials, it's our responsibility to make sure that that don't happen.
Do you have some suggestions on how we could reduce the budget?
I don't
Because
know.
I think that's, we give these
Well,
guys
I can
responsibility.
suggest, but they probably aren't gonna like it,
Well, I just mean, I
you
mean, you,
know? I mean,
yeah.
I've
I
been through it a
understand,
lot.
right, I know you have, but you seem to, I mean, I just think that if you identify some ways for our department managers to reduce their costs, you should identify those or give them an opportunity. to
Well,
speak.
I've had several conversations.
if, I would like to address the brine thing.
Yeah, that was the point of order, I guess. That was carried,
So
yes, let's-
the point of the brine thing is to reduce the amount of salt that we buy. And the system that we're looking at now is the street guys went to a conference to kind of look at some different ideas. And so then they came back with what we're looking at is, so let's say it's $3,000. We're, 2,500 of that is buying more of our allocation of salt. We get an allocation of salt. We start by buying 80% of it. We're gonna buy 100% this year. And then we're gonna put $500 worth of a chemical in. Snow plowing is by far the thing that I get the most complaints about. It goes, one person complains about one thing and the very next time somebody complains about the complete opposite thing. What we're looking to do is to apply this to our salt. It treats when it's colder, and then it also can be pre-applied at times. So then we can reduce the amount of salt we're putting down at intersections. We can also reduce the amount of times that the PD often calls us on a weekend or something like that when you get weather and the intersections start getting slippery. So we're hoping what this will do is save us the amount of salt and sand that we purchase and apply.
Well, that's the kind of things I'd like to see, because I'd like to see the numbers on that when it plays out, when we buy equipment to replace equipment that we've already got, because I know that they just bought that new truck that has a new sander on the back of it. And we got sanders on, what, 2 other trucks at least?
Yeah, and this will be applied with
And-
this, with the sander. It's just the $10,000 system, that was talking with our department. We thought that we could buy tanks and build our own application system, but however, like I said, they, after going to this conference that they attended, at the very least, it looks like this is something we ought to try, you know, a $500 solution. And the extra salt that we buy this year, I mean, we store that until we use it. It's gonna get used anyway, so it's just getting applied this year, but if we don't go through it all, we'll have it next year too. It doesn't go to waste. So what we think we're doing is taking a $500 risk to see if we can reduce the amount of salt and sand that we purchase and apply to the streets.
So is this based on what we've done for years and years and years has done, basically it's in the name of public safety, right? Is that what we do it for, or what do we?
Plowing,
why
I
do we
mean,
do that?
safety and convenience.
Because I don't know if our accident rate has gone sky high here or if, you know, when we got you know, I'm not gonna, I guess I probably am an unarmed man when I try to argue about this stuff, but the thing about it is that I feel that we need to start looking at some of this stuff and needs and wants. It's what it comes down to, because we're getting taxed to death here, and we need to be responsible. It's our job.
Yeah, and like I said, this is an attempt to reduce the amount that we spend on salt and sand. It's to make our salt go farther and last longer. So, I mean, that's what we're trying to lessen the amount that we go and apply. And most of it, that we put down goes on intersections, and we don't intend to increase, you know, we're going to still concentrate on the intersections. We're just hoping that they will stay clear longer.
Yeah, I have I think a good relationship with Scott, and we have good conversations. I have good relations, I think, with most everybody that works here. But, and I've wore those hats. I was the fire chief, I was the police chief. I looked at budgets. Now I look at it from a different side. And I have to look at it more from the people's side, not from what would be good or what would work. You know, sometimes you gotta look at things a different way, so, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we could, are you done, Joe? We can move on to committees?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, unless there's any other questions. Well, you know, on the 12th of December, our next meeting, we'll go through all this in more detail again. And if anybody sees anything they have questions about or want to talk about, give me a call or stop in.
We'll move on to committee reports, and we only have one committee tonight, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
So Parks and Rec met on November 14th at 5:15. It was shared that the new building sign on the community center was put up on October 19th. We also did talk about the tunnels again at Lincoln Park, and it was brought up to reuse the swing set that was taken out in place of those tunnels, and make a recommendation to the council to see if they'd be willing to do that instead of purchasing new equipment.
Need a motion on it?
What
I'll make a motion to replace the tunnels with the old swing set. Be saving money, right? It's a creative way to save money.
Well, sure, it's a creative way to save money. It wasn't cost nothing when it was there. I just don't know what the obsession is with these tunnels. I don't get it. The tunnels are fine. I don't get it. I don't get it. That's the park I live by.
We have a motion, and if we have a second, we can have discussion. Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion from John, a second from Doug. Now is there any discussion?
I just have one question.
Sure.
Where was the swing set from? Just curious.
It was there in the first place, there was a.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was removed to make room for the new playground equipment,
I was just curious where they came from.
not thrown away.
Then we did talk about possibly just getting rid of the down.
Lacey, we still gotta finish up here.
So do you want to add any more discussion?
No. I'm about fed up with the tunnels. I sit there and I watch kids play on them things day after day after day. And I checked that park for 2 months straight, every single day. And every day I went there was nothing in the tunnels. There was some garbage on the lawn around that blew in probably from some of the houses around there. Ron and I talked about painting them, taking on that project this spring. The kids enjoy those. That's something they enjoy, and I don't understand. My
Well,
grandkids.
like you said, though, it's needs and wants. I mean, it's, do we need them there? No. Do we want them here? Yeah, we do, we want them. My kids love them. My kids have played on those for years.
Yeah,
We tried to come up with a creative way, which was just putting in the old swing sets at next to no cost. It'd give the parents a spot to sit while they watch their kids play, because there's no seating there right now. So it was just the best option
yeah.
to replace them. The next generation that is gonna be there, just, they won't have known that they were there even.
Yeah, isn't there plenty of room to put swings and leave the tunnels?
Yeah, but I've heard that there's undesirable things that have happened in there. Now, you can't say it hasn't happened, because you don't know.
Oh, but there's undesirable things that have happened in a lot of things. we
Yeah,
don't
there is,
figure
there
out.
really is.
But whatever, that's fine.
I just hate to wait till it's too late and somebody gets hurt, if there is something going on, if there's people defecating in there, or, which is what I heard. I heard needles or razor blades or something like that. Whether that's true or not, I would rather have taken care of it now than have to have somebody get stitches or crawl through something. Because I love them myself, my kids have played with them for years, and they were mad at me tonight when I said, I think they gotta go.
I don't understand it. I think there's things that we can do in this town that don't need to be that, but I guess if we gotta get rid of them, we gotta get rid of them, we'll tear it down. Do what we gotta do. I've heard that story a couple different times from a couple different people. And, I've never seen it. I spent a lot of time over there with my grandkids back in the day, and I've never.
I haven't either.
But I also don't see very many people over there taking care of it either, so.
We have a motion, John, second Doug. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, Nancy, go ahead.
Then it was also recommended to fill in grates downtown and just get rid of the boulevard trees and just plant in residential and park areas.
Do what now? Fill
Fill
in
in
the
the
grates that
grates.
are with the trees that are.
Yep, downtown,
Yep,
but still plant trees in the residential areas and parks.
yep.
That's removing the trees that are still alive? I mean, there are some that are still
No, we
alive?
wouldn't move,
I'm sorry, there's so much going on with that.
Yeah, so my understanding of the recommendation that came out of Park and Rec is if there's no trees in them now, we're not gonna replant. If trees die and are removed, we would not replant. Basically to remove the grates, cement that to, either planters or some other, public art. I think the discussion that we had is, so many of those tree grates, we've planted numerous trees in. Spending a lot of money on trees that are doomed.
Do we need a motion for that one? I'll make a motion that we fill in the
Grates.
graded areas that don't have trees in them, and just be done with that.
And as they
Those.
die, fill the new ones in?
Correct.
Okay.
Are you seconding that, Mary Jo?
Yep, I'm
Okay.
seconding that, but I just wanted to get it all in,
Yep,
so we don't
yep.
have to make another motion.
And we talked about this at Park and Rec. That does not mean we're getting out of the tree business or that we don't like trees or, whatever. We want to continue to plant trees and promote that in the city of Staples. It's just those concrete boulevards are just not a good environment for those trees.
Yeah, the trees that are there that are living will stay
thriving,
until
yeah.
they die, and once they die, then the grates will be pulled and filled in as they die.
All right, so motion to,
Yep.
replace the grates with cement and, no longer plant trees in areas where they die. We have a motion by John, second by Mary Jo. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Go ahead.
And then we adjourned at 6:07 PM.
I want to make a correction in this, Lacey, that there's only going to be 13 planters. Because we're not getting rid of any planters.
As of right now. Hopefully we can remove some of them so it's not so crowded down there.
I don't see where it's crowded at all. And I thought that was the motion that was made at the meeting was that the group of us were taking it over and the pots would be brought down there. We would be delivering them out, putting them out. We were asking different businesses if they'd be willing to water them. But you had made an idea that you wanted to go down to 13, and nobody wanted that. So, as far as I know, I don't know, you were there, John, Blake. I talked to Megan today, and she was under the same assumption, they were all staying.
But I think the minutes, indicate that Lacey suggested filling in the grates so that there are only 13 planters. That wasn't necessarily the action of the Park and Rec Board.
Right, but nobody ever agreed to don't go down to 13 planters, is what I'm saying.
I don't think nobody didn't agree to it either. I think
Right.
Blake left with the, thought that we were gonna, Lacey was gonna touch base with him about the final count, right? And I guess we're hearing it now. It's 13 is the proposed, number to go down to.
But the city's not taking care of them, and that was discussed at the meeting.
Right.
The revitalization, and then there's a garden club that's gonna be taking care of the pots, they're not, the city isn't having to do a darn thing with them.
I just don't understand how the number of planters can go down if we're gonna no longer be spending, as years go on, less and less time watering trees. Why can't the time that was allocated for those trees be allocated towards planters? So why even go down on planters? If there's 23 of them out there, and we've been able to successfully water 23 planters for however long, why would we get rid of any? Especially if we're no longer gonna replace with trees.
Not all 23 planters were out there until last summer, when we had to cover grates.
But that still doesn't answer, if we're gonna be removing trees, that should still free up time for these planters, correct?
They still have to water the other trees that are planted in the residential and park area.
Okay.
So we can't have planters hanging from the poles. We can't have planters sitting on the side. What can we have downtown? You're not out there watering them, you're not having to do it, there's a whole group of people that are willing to do it.
Well, and I think that's, Blake and I were visiting a little bit between our meetings tonight. Part of the question is, if we've got 23 or 30 or 15, are adjacent businesses willing to adopt those and help, and what's the number of them related to that? And I don't think that's been determined. What I do know is that for the summer of 2024, with the decision about not replanting trees in those areas, we're gonna have tree grates that need to have planters sitting on top of them. And we will be using all 23 and probably wishing we had more for a period of time. Because if you go around, drive up and down right now and look at, the number of planters that are on grates, we also have a number of grates that have trees that are suspect, to be generous, as to whether they're gonna be alive and blossoming. So we know that they're all gonna be out this coming year. They may not be right where everybody wants them to be, because it's gonna be dictated largely by where those empty tree grates are.
Right.
you know, what that number is long-term, you know, in 25, 26, 27. We got a lot of time to figure that out and to gauge interest with business owners if they want to adopt that, you know, adopt planters and, you know, that type of
I
thing.
would think that number would be somewhat arbitrary for that reason, as it evolves and changes and you have either more interest or less interest, that number is gonna fluctuate. So I would think that number is somewhat arbitrary, and I don't know what that number is
And that's why
necessarily.
I don't feel as if we should be targeting community members and business owners to adopt these planters. If it's been something that's been in the city budget for however many years. I mean, I worked for Parks and Rec for a few years. I was the one that went around and watered these trees and planters before. What's changing 5 years ago on maintaining our trees and our planters as far as workload on watering? Is that what I'm understanding is what's going down, is our staff can't keep up with watering these? Or what's the issue here? Why would we need to go down in planters?
I've talked to 6 businesses, and that's just that I've been able to get to. I haven't gotten to everybody. That has said, no, we'll take care of the plant. Staples World, they said they would take care of
Right,
it.
and I don't think it'd be an issue if we had to
Backside.
ask these business owners to
Right.
do it. I'm just asking, out of how many years we've had trees and planters downtown, why now do we need to ask our business owners to step in and pitch in more of their dollars when they already pay taxes to pay for these planters and trees already, when we've been able to handle it for so many years?
Are they volunteering to do it, or are they being asked to do it? Are they
Well, that's
feeling
what we need to decide here.
Well, because it could be just that they're volunteering to take over that duty since it's right in front of their place. It could be a matter of just
Right.
volunteering versus
Yeah,
being asked to do it, and it's a responsibility because we told you you have to.
we can't look at it like we're
Right.
burdening them with
Right.
this, that it's something to be proud of.
Right, and I think we need to decide, some of these people are gonna be doing that because they want to, not because they have to. So,
Right.
you know, I think,
How many planters do we have?
23.
We have 23 of the concrete, the big,
And that's the ones that the city bought or the taxpayers bought
yeah,
at the turnback thing?
yeah.
Why wouldn't we put them all out?
Well, they'll all be out
Yeah, okay,
this coming year.
plain, simple as that.
Yeah, and the volunteer thing, I don't, you know, I think, you know, there would have to be some conversation, but I don't see the business owners as paying for the planters.
But that's their
I think
time
what
and
we would-
labor.
Right. You know, much like several of them do already.
once again, it would be they're offering to do it, and it's their time and labor out of love versus, oh, I gotta do it because the city can't do it. I think it's more the other. And if it's, you know, you're saying if it's the other, that's not fair, but if it's more that they actually are volunteering, then.
Yeah, nobody would have to do it, you're just
Right.
asking them if they would
And
participate.
Up to them to do that to help.
But if, what I'm saying, I guess what I'm trying to say here is if Lacey's recommending or suggesting that there's only be 13, if there's more than 13 planters out there, does that mean that you're only gonna go out and water 13 of them?
If there's only 13 out there, then we'd
But
water
if we had
13.
23, would you stop at 13?
No, they'd water the 23 like we have been doing.
That's what I just
think
wanted to
that-
clarify, just to make sure.
And for the volunteer thing, it would just be to just maybe water in between.
Right, okay. I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't strictly gonna be on, you were stopping at 13.
And we wouldn't make them purchase the flowers, we'd still be purchasing the
I
flowers.
I understand that.
Let's,
Well, there's,
So-
oops, go ahead, Gerald.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, none of this has been determined, you know, for sure. You know, what, like I can say, I can speak to 2024 with the whole tree grade issue, that absolutely everything that we have is gonna be out covering a tree grade at the beginning of the year, so. And whether there's 13, 23, or 33, if the council, you know, wants that many, we'll figure out how to get them watered.
Well, there's 22, I think, in our group right now, the revitalization that's been dealing with all this stuff. And there's probably 12 of them that said, why don't we just have part of us just do the gardening club? So, you know, they'll go around, they'll make sure they're weeded, they'll do whatever watering they can if these ones don't. So my thing with this whole thing, and it was at the meeting too, is the city isn't doing anything. It's free help from all the people that want to make the downtown look decent. I mean, I'm so tired of looking at Humberg Spot and old jewelry store. I mean, what else do we have? We gotta have something that look nice to it when people come in this town. And people love those planters, whether some might not because they're work, but people like those planters.
No, maybe I misunderstood when you said the city is not doing anything.
Well, the city isn't gonna be planting them. The group is putting them out after they get planted.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, but we are watering them.
Right. The ones that people aren't volunteering, but we've even
And we're
had
putting
the
the
group.
planters out and putting and taking it back.
Well,
Permanent out.
the concrete planters, you know, depending on what happens winter versus summer, you know, right now, I think the plan, as I understand it, is that to do the winter decorations again, in the big planters.
Oh, sure.
If that wasn't happening, we would go and pick them up with the payloader and haul them down to, you know, have them removed from the snow removal, you know,
Right.
operation. And we did that, you know, I don't know, probably 3-4 years, I would say, after that, and then they started
Getting beat
covering
up.
tree grates.
Yeah.
So, and if they're gonna be there, if they can be decorated, that's wonderful, you know, I think it looks really nice. And, you know, so,
Okay, I just
other
wanted
than
to
the
clarify
watering,
that.
yep, the watering portion of it, and we do water them 3 times a day, and or 3 times a day.
No wonder the trees are kind
The flowers have been getting watered 3 times a week, excuse me, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then, the trees, you know, are basically getting 5 days a week. So, you know, obviously the more, pots and planters, because we also added pots, a couple of them by the PD and by First International last year.
Oh, by the fence area?
Yeah,
there was
the
5
fence
of those.
areas, yeah, so, you know, water on those too, so. But like I said, you know, if Park Rec Board and the council wants to have 20 of them out there, 30 of them out there, if that's what you want, we'll figure out how to water them. I think it'd be great if people, you know, had an interest in it, wanted to volunteer to help maintain them, it'd be wonderful.
All right.
Same with their boulevard tree if it's out in front of their place.
All right,
Okay.
let's move on to the next item of business, which is open forum. Is there anyone that would like to speak at open forum this evening? All right, we'll move on to city administrator's report.
Few items, Blake and John and Doug, I handed everybody out a copy of the Todd County ordinance regulating the use of cannabis and cannabis-derived products in public places. They just adopted this here at their November meeting. So take a look at it. We can get together and talk about what, if anything, the city wants to do. It's an easy read. There you go. Be totally educated on all those definitions. Just a few other items. We toured the Staples Motley Elementary School as part of the tours that the EDA is organizing. And I, for one, had not been in the elementary school in a number of years. And boy, what a difference. The cafeteria and kitchen and the new gym, very nice. And I think it's a very attractive facility over there. I know a few of you also attended that. We continue to work on our labor negotiations with AFSCME and have another meeting again next week with them. Hopefully we'll be able to reach an agreement and get the labor agreement settled so that we can bring it to the council before the end of the year. So the next meeting on December 12th, just a heads up as to some of the stuff that's on there. Obviously, final budget levy, that we talked about here tonight. We'll also be bringing recommendation for fee schedule. It was some adjustments on it from what we have currently in 2023, and also the part-time wage that we deal with on an annual basis. So And then also be thinking about committee appointments. That'll be coming, the first meeting in January. You know, so if you're on a committee now, but, you know, don't feel like it's a good fit, or the timing doesn't work, and you want to get on a different committee or whatever, be thinking about that. And if you have a strong opinion one way or the other, let us know. We'll see if we can get that worked out. 212 Wisconsin, all of the asbestos inspection is done on that. It's been boarded up twice. We anticipate Hengel will be here, we hope, end of this week, next week, but they are gonna get it done here before winter, so get the demo done on that, so. The other thing that, that we'll have, I anticipate on the 12th, will be just revisions to our personnel policy that we update every couple of years. One of the legislative changes that will be on that this year is what they refer to as ESST, which is Employee Sick and Safe Time. Which applies to full-time and part-time, basically anybody who works at least 80 hours will be involved in that. So I'm working on trying to, you know, figure out the implementation of that, what language needs to go into the personnel policy. League now has a model policy out there, but the league list service is blowing up with people asking questions about ESST, and no elected officials are not included in that. They finally decided that, so sorry. With that, that's all I have. There's questions.
I would like to say, I went out and did the North Pole, and it's awesome. Anybody that knows of kids should take a drive through that. It is really nice. And then Saturday the 2nd at the tree lighting, they're also gonna have hay rides. And the bank's putting on hot chocolate. That's Saturday at 5 uptown in the bank parking lot, so just anybody that knows.
Awesome.
To Scott, did you say that the tree grinder, there was a guy gonna grind trees yet this fall? Last time, when they were first cutting trees, we discussed it. Is he still thinking of coming out and? Yet this year, okay, I'm just.
I guess like what Gerald said too about the elementary school, I took that tour also. And I was impressed with the lunch, the cafeteria and all that. But one thing that really impressed me was 2 safety things that they put in that building. One was a sprinkler system, and the other is locks on the doors that are controlled by so the access is controlled to the entire building. And that's something that I think is really awesome that they did there, and they did a good job. So looks like they spent money well spent. So.
Okay.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion from John, second from Blake to adjourn. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Adjourn.
I had good intentions, but my grandson was taken to the emergency room in Medina, so I didn't get to get to
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I was wondering what happened to you, because you said that, you know, that you were gonna be
He
there.
was playing ping pong, and he stepped outside